Basket can't defend. He's got the outside line for the second spot, and he can't hold on.
Going the long way around. We're going to be 3 wide for the lead as they all come to the line. Who is going to take it in the end?
And here comes Lockwood. He's going to make the move to the outside. Quinn tries to force him off a little bit, but there he goes. It's going to be side by side through turn 1.
Will he be able to cover him off? He does. Weaving back to the left-hand side. Reynolds is trying everything. The kitchen sink is being thrown at him.
They're leaning on each other. Coming into turn number 3. It's going to be a drag race through 3 and 4. Coming back to the line. Here comes Frisch on the bottom. Bouchard's going to hold the inside. Tries to be the late breaker here. They're going to be side by side through the final chicane. They bang doors, but keep it clean.
As they're still 4 wide on the run down into the back straightaway. Demerit's looking for a line as well. What is going on in Michigan?
Novak into the fence. They're still beating and banging. And to the line.
He is much faster coming through there. Is there damage on Challenger? Abramitis is ahead. There's going to be a race to the line. Who is going to get it?
Represented by Purple Haze Motorsport moves from the Eifel region of Germany to the southern hemisphere, all the way down in a place called Australia, as we're here for week 5 of the 2026 winter season, live here on the Race and Nexus Broadcast Network. My name is Alex Goldschmidt, standing in for Brian Zinn, who has had to attend to a family emergency, and joining me not just on colour commentary, but is also our producer for tonight, Sagar Bakshi, joins me in the Race and Nexus broadcast booth. So, Sandown Raceway, known in Australia as the home of horsepower, and it's located 25 kilometres southeast of the main city centre in the suburbs of Victoria, but also is 35 minutes northwest of Albert Park in Melbourne. That's going to be hosting the opening round of the 2026 FIA Formula One World Championship. But more to the point, this circuit opened back in 1962. It measures 1.929 miles, 13 turns, 9 to the left, 4 to the right, runs counterclockwise. So at this point we are going to be going to the dual race format, which will be the 10-minute closed qualifying with the Corvette C7 Daytona prototypes, and GT3 machinery are in action around this circuit to see who will get on pole position. And then of course we'll have a 40-minute feature a little bit later on, but let's update you on the current point situation coming into week 5 out of 10. So, in C7 prototype, Christopher Hill leads the way by just 7 points ahead of Damien Daniat. Brian Dees, Travis Fleming, Joshua Rutherford, James Watson, Brody Gunter and Dave Seats round out your top 8 in the C7s. Keown Majuro is the leader in the GT3 side of things, ahead of Victor Aldrich, with Corey Rutherford rounding out your top 3. They're covered by 36 points. Daniel Miglin is a further 39 points behind in 4th position. Ty Marasco, Kenneth Estep, Mike Hamlin and Jordan Journeau round out your top 8. Team Watson Racing leads the team standings on 270, 16 ahead of TWR SJ Division. Work in progress round out your top 3, a further 5 points behind, with MFRD, Team Fast-ish, Limitless Motorsports, Eski Motorsport and JK Racing rounding out your top 8. And with that in mind, Sagar Bakshi, good evening. It's been a hot minute since we were last in the booth a long time ago. It must have been at least a couple of years, but it's good to be back alongside you. But Sandown Raceway, it's going to be a tough test because we've got a lot of opportunity for straights, but also the fact that there's going to be a little bit of technicality for the drivers to get their teeth into.
Absolutely. We'll take a quick look at the calendar as well. We've been to a couple of really tough tracks, but we haven't seen anything quite like Sandown yet. This is definitely a national-esque like circuit. So what I mean by that is it's fast and fluid. We have a lot of straightaways where the drivers are going to be carrying speed. There's really only one sector where it's a little bit technical and the drivers are going to have to make up the speed. That's a lot more different than Daytona, a lot more different than we were racing at Indy. This is just a whole different animal, and with this multi-class series that we have in front of us, it's going to be very interesting to see how the drivers all square up going into this one. We do have a great qualifying. Let's go ahead and take a look at the grid next, and of course the starting order that we have.
Yep, it's going to be Christopher Hill starting on pole position in the C7 Daytona Prototype side of things. Damon Dania alongside him on the front row. James Watson in the Stabilo Boss tribute livery band there on that C7 Daytona Prototype. You could actually see that if Google Maps were right on Sandown Raceway right now. He's ahead of Brian Dees, Joshua Rutherford and Travis Fleming round out your 6 strong in the Daytona Prototypes. Daniel Miglin's going to lead the way in the GT3s ahead of Keon Majuro, who was actually in action on Racing Nexus last night with Apex This. Made up 14 places in the GT4s, so he's going to be running in the good old Ford Mustang. Then you've got Nita Kumi and Victor Aldrich, Corey Rutherford and Ken Estep, who hasn't made it to the grid. So we are going to have a total of 12 cars. If Ken Estap, who is going to be able to get out of the pit lane once we go green, it is going to be a very short run out of that 13th and final corner. It has seen the likes of the Repco Supercars Championship, which will be going into action very, very shortly. They've been testing all the cars, including the new Walkinshaw Andretti racing Toyota Supras that are the A90 derivative that now will go against the might of Chevrolet and Ford around everywhere you can think of in modern day Australian supercar racing, and that should be rather exciting. But the pace car is taking us for a little sort of calm Sunday afternoon drive before they put the hammer down here, and it's going to be rather interesting how things will go the minute we go on that long run. It's a long run down that front stretchway, Sagar, down into a very hard braking zone into the 90 left at turn 1, and then it's you know, these Daytona prototypes, they carry a heck of a lot of speed, but it could be to their disadvantage.
It really could be to their disadvantage, but it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers make up speed differently as we get ready for the green flag here.
So, first race coming up now, 20 minutes here at Sandown Raceway, the home of horsepower here in Victoria in Australia. It's going to be Chris Hill and Damien Dania on the front row of the grid. Obviously, the main thing is you're going to see the likes of Miglin and Maduro. They're going to be mixing it up because they have been very much on the same pace. Track temperature 46 degrees centigrade, 27 degrees Celsius, as we will now start to put the hammer down. And Damon Dania's already got the jump on Chris Hill as we go green here for 20 minutes. And he goes to the outside into turn 1. Chris Hill takes the inside line. Dania has to go a little bit on avoidance, but we'll have the inside line going into turn 2. They're wheel to wheel, they're banging doors. As now, Dania to the outside, he's going to be taken a little bit further back because of the fact that Christopher Hill had the inside line going through turn 4. Now down the backstretch down the right-hand kink at 5. And you can see that the top 4, that's Hill, Dania, Watts and Dees. Keon Majuro has got a 0.3 of a second advantage in the 188 Ford Mustang ahead of the Acura number 4 of Daniel Miglin. Nita Kumi in the 151 Ferrari 296 is a little bit further back as Brian Dees goes off the circuit through turns 6 and 7 as the leaders make their way down through turns 10 and 11 for a hard braking zone into that point of the circuit. Then it's through into the left here at turn 12 and turn 13. And after the opening lap, Chris Hill and Damon Dania, they had a really good early exchange, but Dania at the moment trying to get trying to see if he can get a little bit of that slingshot off of him. They're running at about 170 miles an hour, the Daytona Prototype, so they are going to be a little myriad quicker than the GT3 cars, but nevertheless, a great opening start between Chris Hill and Damon Dania there, Sagar, because Daniel was trying every trick of the book to get through, and Chris Hill was saying, in the words of Dumbledore from Harry Potter, "Thou shalt not pass."
Absolutely. It's great to see a driver like Christopher Hill really not look in his rear view mirror, understand that he has the pace to kind of just drive away from Daniel behind, who has been pressuring like a hot stone during a Swedish massage, just slowly pressuring away at that, not trying to get it out. That is Christopher Hill, but Hill is just immobile right now. He is on an absolute flyer. We saw his outright pace in qualifying, and Dania has to retort somehow, some way during this 20-minute race. Of course, we do have an interesting format coming up, right? And that's very important to discuss, as we do have excuse me, not the race analysis there. We do have the season info, where we have 2 races coming up. We have the first heat is a 20-minute race, the second race being a 40-minute heat. So with this strategy for heat number 1 coming out, are you really setting yourself up for success in heat number 2? Are the drivers thinking that far ahead, or are they just simply thinking in terms of, let me get through this heat first?
Yeah, I think it's obviously about getting those points on the board, and that's what you really want to have from this point onward, because we go to Barber Motorsports Park, which will then start in earnest the second half of this winter series for the American Sim Racing League Sports Car Championship. Of course, ASRL have been around since 1999, so over a quarter of a century. There is Keon Majuro. Oh, now someone's gone wide. That's Rutherford in the number 64 Daytona Prototype. Keon Majuro currently running P6 overall, but running as the leader in the GT3, and there's the bright blue Acura NSX GT3. We would call it a Honda over here in the United Kingdom, running P2, and the gap between Miglin and Nitikume is about 1.6 seconds, as Joshua Rutherford has gathered himself up, dusted himself off, and decided, right, okay, well, I've just got to start pedaling this C7 Daytona Prototype a little bit faster. There is Nitikume in the 151 Ferrari 296 GT3. Love the Italian flag on the, as the racing stripe down the centre of the roof and the hood of that car. And it's one of the latest vehicles that has been really showcasing its skills. Replaced the 488 GT3, which is the last of the V8 Ferraris that we saw in GT3 competition, the 3.9 litre twin turbo V8. Now it's a twin turbo 3 litre V6. As again, Joshua Rutherford has gone off track. What's happened to Daniel Miglin? Oh, well, I just saw Rutherford off the circuit, and Miglin's there as well, so I'm wondering if there's been an incident. Let's have a look on the replay. On board with Daniel Miglin in the Team Watson Racing. Oh, he's lost it all on his own. That is he's hit the barrier with the back end. So the Acura's gone in hard. So I'm wondering if that's going to be, Daniel Miglin's coming to the pit, so he would have been given the mechanical black flag more than likely, because that was a hard hit.
Yeah, really hard hit. Not the way you want to start your race, especially for the short heats, but getting set up for heat number 2. He might be in a better position than he thinks if he can get back on the track. Daniel Miglin is down 5 currently from where they started. Unfortunate run of events so far, but the story right now is going to be Keon Maduro, who's leading the GT3 field and the championship, 6th overall, but leading the GT3 pack right now, and doing so by a healthy margin, 3.2 seconds to back. But it's not the same in the GTP category, or the C7 Daytonas, excuse me. We have Dania and Christopher Hill neck and neck right now.
Yeah, thanks to Dawn Golden. Yeah, it is just gone 2:15 here in the UK, so please excuse my tiredness, for it was Gandalf that said in Lord of the Rings that thou shalt not pass, and not Dumbledore in Harry Potter. My apologies there, Freudian slip, but hey, at least it got a reaction in the YouTube chat, right? But meantime, Damien Dania is closing in on Christopher Hill. Of course, Dawn cheering on the Nebraska boys and the Work in Progress racing crew, but Dania is really looking rather racy in that number 98 Daytona Prototype. Gap has stayed anywhere between 0.3 to half a second as they go down into the braking zone once again, into the final couple of corners at turn 12 and turn 13, and now they can put the hammer down. Damien Dania has been hitting nearly 175 miles an hour in these cars. They're running just sub 1 minute 5s as there's the long run into turn 1. Yes, definitely an easy mistake. Thank you very much for that, Dawn. Appreciate the sympathy vote there in the YouTube chat. But there's still plenty of this race to go. 7 minutes down, 13 to go, and Christopher Hill just keeping Damien Dania very, very honest. Keon Majuro has got a big lead now. It's 4.8 seconds. And Daniel Miglin, well, did execute a fast repair, but that has put the number 4 Acura right to the back of the field behind Victor Aldrich. Ken Estep, unfortunately, in the 66 Ferrari did not join the session. So whether Ken's decided, well, I might decide to join, as there we see Damien, that's his camera shot there, I would imagine. So you can just see the amount of undulation. These Daytona prototypes, based on the C7 generation of the Chevrolet Corvettes, are very, very low to the ground, very, very aerodynamic heavy, but they do provide a good old glorious sound, especially when you're getting them up to full throttle, up to 6th gear, and he's going to be pushing the best part of 165, 170 miles an hour. Now they've got some back marker traffic. There's the repaired Acura of Daniel Miglin as they go through into turns 2 and 3, being very, very mindful of the curves. Very short run to turn 4, and then now Daniel can get the power down. 2nd gear, up the rev range, 3rd gear, now 4th. They quickly go through the gears, up the gears here on the C7 Daytona prototypes. And 160, look at this, double toe, nearly 170 miles an hour as they have to go through the downhill cambered sweeper at turn 6 into 7 and 8, hard on the brakes again, into 1st gear, 50 miles an hour. And you can just see as Damien just sweeps the hair out of his left eye, just to try and keep his peripheral vision at the screens okay. You can just see how hard he's pushing, and Christopher Hill is absolutely making that C7 Daytona prototype, the number 101, as wide as humanly possible. He's just parking it on every single part of the racing line because Chris Hill is able to do so. He's got the rights of way, but Dania late on the brakes into that corner there. He is absolutely trying to put the pressure onto Christopher Hill, and the 101 is soaking up the pressure like the sponge he is.
Check out the battle between Corey Rutherford and Victor Aldrich as Victor Aldrich found a way around Corey Rutherford and the Purple Haze Autosports team, the work in progress organization, falling back into P4 for the category. Aldrich going forward very quickly in the number 88 Acura, as you said earlier. In some countries or regions that would be badged as a Honda, but here in the United States we're seeing it as the Acura NSX, but JDM brand all around. It is an import and something that we love to see.
No problem at all, Dawn. I mean, the thing is, it was a call about 5 hours ago, thanks to the head of the team here at Racer Nexus, Rob Campbell. He said, well, is anyone available? Brian has got a family emergency on at the minute, but he said thanks for the kind words, so we'll send him everyone's regards here from ASRL here tonight. But yeah, I mean, the thing is at the end of the day, it's one of those things, family comes first, folks, but we are halfway through this first of 2 races, and Corey Rutherford for the work in progress team in the number 5 Ferrari. Liking the livery on that one, by the way. Deep purple, black, and a little bit of gold accenting accordingly. But Victor Aldridge in the number 88 Acura nearly drops the ball, and that is for 3rd place. So the final spot in the top 3 is they're going to come through into turns 11 to 13 out of the final turn. The Acura able to get the power down a little bit better than the Ferrari through the final corner. And then down the long stretch they go, so it's going to be a big old rush to it. And well, looking at this, Corey Rutherford just took over 2.5 tenths. That's a quarter of a second out of Victor Aldrich, who did a high 1 minute 11.0. Rutherford a 1 minute 10, a low 1 minute 10.8. So Corey really starting to manhandle that Ferrari a little bit, going through into turns 3 and 4, and normally if there were wet weather conditions, if it was the Repco Supercross Championship, turns 2, 3 and 4 are one of the worst places to miss your braking marker completely, because there's been so much carnage there over the years, but they still love going there. But meantime, the battle at the front end of the field saga is continuing onwards as it has been all race long, and we've still got 8.5 minutes to go. For those wondering about the temperature in Fahrenheit, it's 81 degrees Fahrenheit air temperature, and it's 115 degrees Fahrenheit track. So the tyres, if these conditions stay like this for race 2, I think there could be a possibility that the Daytona prototypes might run out of tyre degradation before the end of the race.
That is a really interesting point. These C7s will chew through the tires because of how much power they're able to generate, and the way these drivers have been sliding through these corners carrying so much speed. It'll be very interesting to see how the tires end up lasting throughout the 40-minute heat race as well. Right now, the driver's not so concerned with the situation that they're in. We only have 7 minutes and 30 seconds left, running about 1 minute laps. Let's say we've got about 6 laps remaining, give or take 1. Now, the question of the day is really what is going to be the call for heat number 2 for these drivers? A 40-minute race, should they decide to come take tires or not? That will be up to them. Will the lap times be there? We're seeing a best lap time from the leader of Christopher Hill as a 104.62. His last time around being a 105.23. Do you think that the tire fall off will even be maybe up to 2-3 seconds a lap after we breach the 25-minute mark?
It's going to be an interesting call because it always depends on the humidity factor and also the track temperature. The track temperature, and now is going to be the key point that the drivers are going to really have to have their eyeballs on stalks for, as we've got the battle for P3 in front of the leaders, and that's coming through turn 4, and Corey Rutherford goes off the track slightly to avoid Christopher Hill and Damon Dania. They were 6 1,000ths apart on their fastest respective laps in this race so far, and now they're on the way down to turn 6. To the outside they go, through on Victor Aldridge in the 88 Acura. So, well, no, Damon Dania gets held up, and that's through turn 6, 7 and 8, 7 to 9. Damien Dania's really got to start now closing that gap. It's gone up to the biggest duration it has all race long. It went from 0.3 of a second, and it's gone up by 1.7. It's 2 seconds that is the gap between the 2 leaders as we cross the line to complete lap number 13. Well, that is exactly what Damien Dania did not need at that point in the team fastish number 98 Daytona Prototype, and now he's got to gather things up a little bit more and go hell for leather. Oh, and he's lost it!
Oh, and he's off the track!
He did not want to do that into turn 1. He just carried way too much speed. I think when you get this sort of, you either get a sense of desperation or a sense of urgency. The sign of desperation was a little bit there for Damien, I'm afraid, where he just went in, hammered down, and he must be breaching 170 miles an hour before the braking point, misses braking point, overshot it, and went straight off the track. And that is effectively going to gift, with just over 5 minutes to go, Christopher Hill, I think, the race win, unless there's another car that Christopher is now coming up to probably lap, which will be Nitakume in the number 151 Ferrari. That's the next car that he needs to pass. And there you see, still, Christopher Hill's coming out of the final corner. There's Kume in the 151. So 4 3/4 minutes. I think we've probably got another 5 laps to play with here, because if he's running in the 104, well, let's call it 105s, you add another 5 laps, as now he's going round the outside at turn 1. Kume keeps out of the way. Daniel's now 2.3 seconds behind. It's just about having that track management at this point, because Keon Majuro is 13.3 seconds up the road, and Christopher Hill will, I think, not catch him in that amount of time. We are coming down to the final 4 minutes of this race, and it was just that moment where Damien Dania got caught up in between the middle of the 2 drivers, Aldrich and Rutherford, battling over P3 in the GT3 class. That was the moment where Christopher Hill made good his intention, got through on both cars very quickly. Damien Dania just ended up like the meat in the sandwich.
But I still think Damien made the right move by staying behind Victor Aldrich. He made the right move. It's all about self-preservation when it comes down to endurance races. You don't want to be the driver that goes for a move that ends up taking you from second place to last place in an event like this. It's the last thing you can possibly need. So exercising a little bit of discretion, Damien Dania did a great job of exercising that, gave up a lot of track ground for that incident, or for that altercation, let's say. But at the end of the day, he's still in P2. P2 by 2 seconds or P2 by 2/10. Doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's better action for us to watch, and I love to see it. But this is still P2. I think he's going to be okay with that for now. Corey Rutherford and Victor Aldrich, who continues to make mistakes, now running in the 211s again, allows Corey Rutherford to close down the gap. And that will be James Watson, if I'm not mistaken, in the number 39 Highlighter Mobile. And I believe he is sponsored by Sharpie and the Highlighter Company. So I could be wrong, but I believe James Watson is the Sharpie man.
If we get a chance to speak to him in the post-race interview show, then hopefully we might be able to get that information come to light. But we are down to the final 2 minutes left of this race, and Christopher Hill has just set the fastest overall lap of the race so far, a 1:04.563 in the number 101, and his gap over Damien Dania. And I have to say, Sagar, really well pointed out there about Damien wanting to have self-preservation as the better course of action, of sticking in P2 and just making sure that he can preserve himself with that amount of points, as James Watson makes his way through on Victor Aldrich. So he's made his way up to P3, he's made his way past P3 in the GT3 division. So we are coming down to what will be 2 laps to go, as Christopher Hill will take us on to the penultimate tour of the 1.929 mile circuit here. 13 turns, 9 to the left, 4 to the right as he makes his way into the braking zone, turns it in nice and neat on the apex, runs the car a little bit wide on the exit, through into turn 1, now into the left at turn 2, the right at turn 2, and then the double left complex here at 3 and 4 before winding that car up to the best part of 170 miles an hour in top gear. On this back straightaway, it's a long stretch from turn 5 to turn 6 before you have to sort of like, hit the brakes on a sixpence and then turn it in to the left. But nevertheless, still, Victor Aldrich and Corey Rutherford seem to be the closest cars together in terms of proximity on the track, as we are down to the final 40 seconds. But Christopher Hill for Team Watson Racing has done an exemplary job. He is going to bring us now onto the white flag lap here with 30 seconds on the ticker left to go. White flag in the air. Christopher Hill, 1.929 miles to victory in the first of 2 races tonight here, the 20-minute sprint, and then we've got the 40-minute feature coming up next. Damien Dania 3.4 seconds behind, James Watson a further 20 seconds adrift in P3 with Brian Dees, Travis Fleming. It's not been an easy run for Joshua Rutherford, who's been off a couple of times in the early part of this race. There was a discussion in the Discord between some of the drivers that someone like going, I'm not too sure if this track's really going to be for me with the C7 prototype, but hats up to those that have decided to brave it. But it is going to be the case that Christopher Hill is now heading into the final quarter of the circuit itself, and well, he's just about to put a lap on Joshua Rutherford as we head into the tail end of this race. The last couple of corners beckon as Christopher Hill for Team Watson Racing will power out of the final corner. He will win a 20-minute sprint here at Sandown Raceway, here at week 5 for the American Sim Racing League Sportscar Championship, presented by Purple Haze Motorsport. It's going to be Damien Dania in P2. In the Daytona Prototypes, it will be James Watson, who is making his way down towards the final couple of corners, and into turns 11, 12 and 13 comes the number 39 TWR SJ division. Daytona Prototype, he will take P3. Keon Majuro takes the win in GT3 ahead of Nitakume in the 151 Ferrari, who's, I don't know what Nite's trying to do with the car, whether he's trying to engage a burnout or maybe try some donuts after taking P2 in that. But nevertheless, Christopher Hill and Keon Majuro, your respective class winners in race 1 here at Sandown Raceway. What a great start to the evening, Sagar.
Absolutely. It was a great show from green to checkered flag. The driver was keeping it really tight, whether it was Dania and Christopher Hill up at the front in the Daytona cars, or if it was Victor Aldrich and Corey Rutherford battling it out in the GT3 category. It makes for some really exciting racing, and especially with unique multi-class racing as well. It provides us with a little bit of a tricky situation, to say the least, about the drivers having to make up time in different ways. We saw it happen to Damian Dania, where he was caught up by the traffic and trying to make up that time in a different way around a GT3 car that's almost just as fast as you in the corners is very tricky to negotiate. So this is a unique series. It's a unique championship. And believe me, I'm here for it, Alex.
Yeah, definitely. And now the drivers have an opportunity to get a little bit of a warm-up and still keep to constantly familiarize themselves with the circuit for the 5-minute warm-up before we go into the 40-minute sprint. And of course, the next round on the series will be Barber Motorsports Park, and then it'll be the rundown to the final few rounds of this series, which look rather interesting. Of course, there's a few more of the 60-minute enduros left to come here on the American Sim Racing League Sportscar Championship, powered by Purple Haze Motorsport. Of course, just need to give a little bit of housekeeping first of all. If you are watching along on the Racer Nexus YouTube channel, please don't forget to like this video, give us a share, hit the subscribe and notification buttons. Also, we've got a nice little affiliate deal for you folks out there in sim racing land, courtesy of our friends at the Apex Sim Racing Shop. You click on the referral link down in the description below. Use the coupon code at checkout, Racer Nexus, and that is for 5% of all purchases. A big thank you to our friends at Apex Sim Racing Shop for allowing us here at Racer Nexus to provide you guys and gals out there, if you want to get the latest equipment, or even if you're a beginner in sim racing, you've just joined iRacing or whatever platform you've decided on, get your gear through them, get a 5% discount, and be on your merry way. If you do also want to join the ASRL League Discord, the link is in the description below as well for good measure. Well, the track temperature still hasn't decreased that much in this warm-up at the minute, because Damian Dania is the only person out on the circuit. I think I think whether he's planning a little bit of strategy, but he's just gone round in a 1:14, quite a comparison to what we had in the race just a moment ago, where he's actually just done a 1:05. So he's really finding his feet, is Damien, and it was good to see how concentrated and focused he was when we had his camera viewpoint on the screen, Sagar. But again, it is going to be a little bit more as a strategy call. If we are going to see high track temperatures anywhere above 40 degrees centigrade, you said about the C7 Daytona prototypes, they rip through tyres. The GT3s, we normally know that you can do a 40-minute sprint easily, a 40-minute feature, but there are the results. Hardest charger, Christopher Hill, well, up 11 positions, no surprise there then. Most laps led by Christopher Hill. And more to the point, well, 37 miles completed. There's going to be a lot more completed. But there you see all the results on your screen for Heat 1 for the American Sim Racing League. But yeah, I think the temperature is going to be the biggest point of call, where the drivers will have to think, okay, can I make, in the C7 Daytona prototypes, okay, when am I going to find out when they're falling off a cliff? My probably reaction to that would be, when the back end gets so loose that when you turn it in, the back end steps out and becomes the front end, you know that you need to park it in the pit lane for tires.
But will it really make up the delta that you lose coming down pit lane? That is the real question, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a tricky negotiation for these drivers to have to make. Do they go for 2 tires? Do they take all 4 tires? Will they make up that delta at the end of the day? Will they be able to continue to put down those 105s, 104s that we saw during the race? Will it actually make a difference? only the drivers know this information. I love to do commentary, magic 8-ball stuff and magic as it were, but unfortunately I don't have the answer. Do you, Alex?
Folks, you're going to have to stick with us, so don't touch that dial because we are literally seconds away from the warm-up being completed. And maybe Damien's probably trying a little bit of a consistency run here because he just did a 1:05.87. So I think really consistency of lap times, not pushing too crazily in the first few laps, is going to be the key to having these tyres in check. Like I say, with the GT3s, it is never an issue. Whatever track you put them on, you can normally go 55, 60 minutes on a full set of tyres before you need to change them. So if you're in, like, say, the iRacing Daytona 24 hours, yeah, you'd be changing them probably every, depending on strategy, depending on how high the tyre pressures are set, dependent on the track temperature, which at the moment is 111 degrees Fahrenheit, which effectively is 44 degrees, 28 degrees air ambient temperature, that's 82 Fahrenheit, 29% humidity. And it is going to be the case that we do a full reverse grid. So it will be, if you started first in your class, you finish, you start in the, you get inverted and you start plumb last. So it is going to be Ken Estep if he is on the front row. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case. So Daniel Miglin will be on pole position ahead of Corey Rutherford and Victor Aldrich. And then we'll have our last two finishers in the GT3s, which will be Nita Kume and Keon Majuro. They will be rounding out the GT3 side of things. Joshua Rutherford will be on C7 Daytona Prototype pole, ahead of Travis Fleming, Brian Dees, James Watson, and then we'll have Damien Dania and Christopher Hill rounding out the grid out of the 11 cars that we will have on the tarmac here at the home of horsepower, basically because Sandown International Raceway is used not just as a racetrack but also as a horse racing track, as you can see by the background here on the shots on your screen. And they still use it as a, you know, the inside part of the infield as a horse racing track here in Victoria in Australia. But I think the biggest thing now is that with regards to the C7s, where you've got Christopher Hill and Damien Dania at the back end of the Daytona Prototype, Sagar, is it's about picking your moments, waiting to see if you can make that overtake, and also conservation of your car for both Christopher Hill and Damien Dania is going to be forefront in their minds.
Yeah, it just is so interesting to me, this championship, this series, the way things are set up here. Joshua Rutherford really has to put in the work to control the field with Travis Fleming in the number 26. It's going to be an interesting run, especially with Damien Dania and Christopher Hill charging through the field. I know Dania is going to charge through the field early. It's just a given. He's going to put the work in. He's a focused driver. He's a young man who exercises a lot of patience in the overtakes that I've seen him do so far.
Yeah, we do see a lot of young drivers that come into the world of sim racing. Some of them think that they're infallible and that they can do everything, and then a few incidents gets them noticed for all the wrong reasons. As now we will have the iRacing pace car very shortly head into pit road, and there it goes, exit stage right, and it is going to be Rutherford and Fleming on the front row of the grid coming out of turn number 13. We're ready to get underway for 40 minutes here in Heat 2 of Week 5 of the American Sim Racing League Sports Car Championship, presented by Purple Haze Motorsport. They're waiting, and then when we see it, it will be green flag in the air by Barney the flag marshal on the start finish straight. We go green, and straight away it's an even start between Rutherford and Fleming. Rutherford will have the inside line into turn 1. Watson to the outside of Brian Dees into turn 1. And oh no, there's been contact. Watson into Fleming, and there's been a few drivers that have been caught out with the appropriate black flag. Christopher Hill, James Watson, Travis Fleming, who's dropped to the back of the order after contact through the opening corner, and there's more drama because Joshua Rutherford has hit the barriers off turn 3.
Oh my goodness, what a race start. Now Travis Fleming and Joshua Rutherford gonna go dip a couple of wheels off into the grass coming down the straightaway, because why not? Corey Rutherford, Keon Maduro going 2x2 through the chicane now, and that will be Maduro working his way into the lead of the GT3s, and that'll be Corey Rutherford going a little bit too deep there and off and into the kitty litter. That'll send him to the back of the pack.
Yeah, that's definitely what he didn't want to do. I mean, he had to check up, put on the brakes, then all of a sudden, well, he let everyone go flying by. Travis Fleming just picked up a slowdown penalty, as Damien Daniel now closing in on Brian Dees for the overall race lead. So the number 17, who was that? That was James Watson going straight on at turn 1. And he's just done the Valtteri Bottas Mercedes Austria impersonation. He's mowed the grass with the front splitter. So that's not exactly done anything right by the number 39. Yes, Dawn saying in the chat, agricultural racing. Yeah, well, you might as well call the James Watson the resident DP lawnmower. So to speak, but he's building speed heading into turn number 6 at the top part of the circuit, the top left-hand part of the circuit. But nevertheless, Keon Maduro leading Daniel Miglin, Nitikume in P3. So it's as it was in the first race early doors when it came to the GT3. As that's Travis Fleming off the circuit, and he is not what he wanted to do. He hit the barrier hard. I bet he did, and that car is straight into pit road. Meantime, Joshua Rutherford trying to close in on Daniel Miglin. Now, we did see in race 1 that Miglin went off on his own accord, and then Rutherford decided to go through the kitty litter a couple of corners later. Nevertheless, you can see that the GT3s are that little bit more stable on their handling prowess in comparison with the Daytona Prototypes, which are one make, spec series vehicles, same powertrain, same aerodynamic bodywork, so everyone has to work with the same equipment, whereas with GT3 you have this wonderful mix and smorgasbord of different cars. As now Damien Daniel through for the race lead, and that is at the end of the straightaways. That was a good run there by the number 98 for Team Fastish, but that is Brian Dees in the wall, and that was coming out of turn 9. But I think he managed to just about save it. He might have just clipped the barriers and scraped a little bit of paintwork off the right hand side. But now we are seeing Damien Daniel leading the race overall, Christopher Hill in P2, Brian Dees rounding out your top 3 in the Daytona Prototypes, and Keon Maduro leading Daniel Miglin, and Nitikume rounding out your top 3 in GT3. So, and the track temperature has actually dropped, which might be a nice little bit of a sign for our Daytona Prototype drivers. We were at 44 degrees Celsius, so 111 degrees Fahrenheit. We're now down to 106 degrees Fahrenheit, 41 degrees track temperature. So that is probably going to help in the longer run of things. And Damien Daniel with the fastest lap of the race of 105.655. They come through turn 6 and into turns 6 to 9, and then it's the short blast through turn 10. Well, it's not really, I can't really call that a corner, to be honest with you. It's just like, yeah, just blast it and just a little bit of steering angle to the right, and then turn 11. Oh, I got to hit the brakes.
It's really reminiscent of the kink at turn 1 at Laguna Seca. People call it turn 1. It's not really a turn. It's pretty much fought out anyways. It's more of a kink in the road, but neither here nor there. I think we're in agreement on this one. Turn 10, not really a turn, let's say.
Completely agree with that one, because I'd rather call the Andretti hairpin turn 1, which is normally known as turn 2 at Laguna Seca, considering Apex's GT4 was there last night. And if you haven't caught that, and if you haven't watched that, well, watch that after this broadcast. So as they say, don't touch that dial, folks. We've still got 35 minutes to go, and we're now seeing the boot on the other foot in the Daytona Prototypes. That Daniel is leading, Hill is in second, and the gap is about half a second between the pair. So these two have been very, very close in terms of prowess. And Damien Daniel has just got in and set the fastest lap of the race so far. He's done a sub 65 second lap time.
Wow.
1 minute 4.975. And is he going to go any better in Sector 3? Well, they're crossing the line now. Christopher Hill has just stolen it away from him. 104.679. Danya at 104.895. So it is game on for the sharp end of the field in the C7 Daytona Prototypes, whereas Daniel Miglin is trying to keep Keon Maduro very, very honest in the 188 Ford Mustang GT3. The gap between them is about a second as they come across the line to complete their 5th lap of the race. So this is where I did say about this, didn't I, Sagar, where it was about just getting the first few laps underneath your belt and get yourself into a steady flow, a steady rhythm. But what Daniel Miglin does not want to do through turn 2 is wallop the curbs.
Yeah, and we saw a couple of drivers get a little eager or over opportunistic, let's just say, on that opening lap, and it resulted in them really either falling out of the race or falling back to the back of a pack. We saw that with Travis Fleming, who's unfortunately no longer with us. Went deep and wide at turn 1, making contact with another driver, and the resulting damage took him out at another corner a little bit later, unfortunately. So we've seen a little bit of a mix. Drivers that have kept it clean, drivers that have been a little bit over eager. And who was that? Was that Nitikume, who went holy Toledo? That was a Code Brown moment if I've ever seen one.
Yes, yeah, that's normally what David Addison normally says on GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS. Code Brown, clean up on aisle 3, all in, and that's something I say on a regular basis when I'm doing my commentary with Porsche Sportscar Suisse, and I'm looking forward to being back with them for another season, heading to Portimao, second week of April for their first of 6 rounds. So Portimao's a great track, wonderful,
yes,
love that locality, and it's a lovely part in the world too as well. But Nitikume, yes, Code Brown, clean up on aisle 3, someone's got the mop in the aisle, and however, Nitikume, I mean, that was a very, very close battle. They were covered, I think, from third to 5th. They were covered by about 1.5 seconds, but look at the run that Corey Rutherford's got on Victor Aldrich in the Acura. He is right with him. He's 3 and a bit tenths behind. They were battling away in race 1. So that Ferrari seems to have kicked up its heels a little bit, and oh right, Rutherford is through.
Rutherford through on Aldrich. The battle didn't go Rutherford's way during heat number 1, but that overtake looked pretty good there for Rutherford. Nice and clean. Just waited for a mistake, put the pressure on Aldrich, and when the opportunity arose, finally was able to pounce. So now Rutherford is sitting on the podium in the GT3 category and has a 6-second gap up ahead. I think this trio back here can probably continue to duke it out for the remaining 31 minutes and 30 seconds of this race.
They can do. I think the biggest thing from my perspective is that if Corey Rutherford can now really start getting some decent lap times in, and you consider the fact that the last laps by the likes of, oh, and here comes Nitikume, wheel to wheel with Victor Aldridge for the TWRSJ division outfit in the 88 Acura. Kume to the outside, through the left-hander, through the chicane, and that was a high, wide and handsome manoeuvre around the outside. Nitikume gets through, but there's been dramas for Daniel Miglin again for the 2nd race in a row. What's happened to the number 4?
Daniel Miglin went off track. Let's get a quick replay and see if we can see what happened to Team Watson Racing.
It's turn 6. There we go. Hit the curves. Bang. Air. And then through the kitty litter and hard into the fence. Hard into the tyre barriers.
Oh, tragic end to his stint right there. Falls back into 10th overall, unfortunately 5th in the category. He's back on track, so using that fast repair, Daniel Miglin has an opportunity to clean up some points in this championship.
Well, he's actually rejoined us from pit road, to be honest with you, Sagar.
Oh,
I think
right.
the car is stationary, so we're down to what'll be 9 cars in total. So Travis Fleming out on lap 2, Daniel Miglin out on lap 7. We are 1/4 of the way through this race. So, but yeah, I mean, it was just, I think what happened there with Daniel Miglin, I think he was just a bit overcommitted through turns 7 and 8, and it was over the curbs at turn 8 where the car got air and it got lifted. Nitikume's been off as well again. Oh dear, the 151 is not. Oh, it's going to be. Don't tell me. Same place. Here we go through turn 6, over 7. Oh, just loses the back end. Oh, the right side hits the fence, but luckily enough, need to kept it steering left. But that car, look at the right side. That is going to be a trip down to pit lane. Damaged steering, damaged suspension. I would imagine on the right front. It can't even turn it.
Can't
right,
even
so you can
get
see
into
there.
pit lane. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
It's crab walking like no other right now. Nidek Kume clattering
Well,
through the wall.
You can see by the left front wheel, it's turning left. It is not wanting to steer any other direction. So that says to me, broken steering arm, broken tie rod, broken upright on that right side, because the right front took the brunt when he hit the wall.
Yeah, 100%. And that is just tragic for his race, but still able to get a haul of points. And who knows, anything can and will happen in motorsports, and it usually does, such as this battle here with Dania and Christopher Hill. They're going to continue to battle out for the remaining 28 minutes of this event. Christopher Hill probably not content with P2 right now and waiting for an opportunity to strike. During heat number 1, we did see the drivers use lap traffic to their advantage to try to make up time or separate themselves from their dance partner. And now I think we're going to get that same opportunity here as we see the 88 of Victor Aldrich as we approach turn number 1.
They're going to be very, very careful on the brakes as now Aldrich keeps out of the way. Both of the Daytona prototypes go. Okay, thank you very much. So, after you boys, I know my race isn't with you guys because I know I'm a hell of a lot slower. And that's the thing, when you're seeing with regards to the delta time difference between let's say for instance Damien Dania, his fastest lap at 1 minute 4.6. Keon Majuro, who has got the second fastest lap, Daniel Miglin, actually was just shy of 3.8 seconds slower than Damien Dania. So there's nearly a 4-second delta between the GT3s and the Daytona prototypes, and that's why the GT3s are more of the road-going equivalents of the respective road-going models. So you're going to find that with a one-make car, I mean, the thing is, when you saw, back in the days of the older days of IMSA, before we had GTP making its welcome return, we had the Riley prototypes, which were powered by Ford. We had the Chevy, the Corvette C7s. We've had a lot of Daytona prototype specials come along through the annals of American sports car history, especially when the main championship in America used to be the American Le Mans Series, which, funnily enough, has the same acronym as the current Asian Le Mans Series, so ALMS.
That is a good point, and something I really never put together, but you're absolutely right. It is still ALMS. Let's check out James Watson on their recovery drive, because they have Brian Dees up ahead. The 39 and the 17 go toe-to-toe. As we said, James Watson can currently be seen from space, and the ISS is always tracking him because of his bright colored livery. Brian Dees, though, in third place, has been resting there for quite some time. James Watson just chipping away a couple of thousandths lap after lap. Let's see what the delta is on this time when they come around. 105.9 to a 105.8, so Watson just a hair faster. But we all know catching is one thing, passing is a whole nother ballgame.
Yep, words always echoed by the late great voice of Formula One, the legend that was, will be forever remembered, Murray Walker. Man who I grew up with back in the 1980s when we had the rivalries of Senna, Prost, Berger, Patrese, PK and all that lot. But Brian Dees getting through on Victor Aldrich. Here comes James Watson with a big rate of speed as he will get through. Slot in front of the 88 Acura as they're going to head down the hill in towards turns 7, 8 and 9. And nicely negotiated by all competitors. Then it's the run through out of 9. Through 10 and then into turns 11, 12 and 13. Bump over the curb there by Watson in the number 39. This is for the final position on the rostrum here in the Daytona Prototype division. So they come across the line, they complete their 14th lap of this race as we are just under 4.5 minutes shy of hitting half time, but the gap between Brian Dees and Christopher Hill is about 13.5 seconds. Watson will bide his time, but he's getting a little bit closer as they come through turns 3 and into 4, and then it's going to be hammered down. Let's see, can Watson get the move done on Brian Dees? Well, Brian Dees has got about 3 car lengths of an advantage, but it's the overspeed, it's the slipstream that Watson will hope to have as they come up over the crest and then down the hill into the sweeping left through the chicane. Watson taking a little bit more curbing on the entry point through turn 6, which helped him carry the momentum. A little bit of smoking tyres from Brian Dees as they come out of turn 9. And it's just, you know, some people think, oh yeah, well you can just definitely send it from absolutely nowhere like Daniel Ricciardo used to do in Formula 1. But there's a hidden art to the world of sim racing. Just like in real life, you've got to really pick your moments, and sometimes an overtaking opportunity may not present itself until you work at it. It could take you 2 to 5 laps depending on track surface, adhesion, how your tyres are degrading, how much fuel is in the car left in the gas tank. There are so many things that these drivers have to consider whilst they are working feverishly behind the wheel and on the pedal sets.
It is really interesting to consider the mindset of a race car driver that's trying to get an advantage over their opponent. They're obviously both pushing as hard as they possibly can, and Tina goes a little bit deep there and scares the bejesus out of me as I thought he was going to go off. Excuse me, James Watson, as I was looking at Daniel's name. Brian Dees carrying a little bit of a tighter line through corner 6 and 7, and Watson carrying a ton of speed there. Lost out, I think, on that previous lap, but we're talking about overtaking maneuvers and opportunities. How do they present themselves, especially at a track like Sandown, where the drivers may not be normally accustomed to this racing style? Oh, there's a big off from Brian Dees. He rejoins the track right in front of James Watson, and he'll regain that time that he lost on the previous lap. Mistakes just like that can present themselves, but you can force a mistake from your opponent, and I think James Watson is trying to put the pressure on like a pressure cooker. He is just building up the pressure, filling up that rear view mirror of Brian Dees out in front, and maybe force a slight mistake going into a braking zone, forcing the opportunity and an inside line to present itself, and more lockups for Brian Dees as the puffs of smoke come flying out of his brake ducts.
Yep, it is just about that case of if you can make it through. They've got Corey Rutherford in the number 5 Ferrari from the work in progress team through Purple Haze Motorsport. So here goes Brian Dees across to the left hand side of the start finish straight here at Sandown Raceway. Of course, next week the series will start the second half of the Winter Series for the American Sim Racing League Sportscar Championship presented by Purple Haze Motorsport, and then there'll be quite a few more tracks for these drivers to get their teeth into over the 5 coming weeks remaining to find out who will be winners, who will be the respective champions in GT3 and of course Daytona Prototype. So you can watch every single round live and uninterrupted here on the Racer Nexus YouTube channel. But again, down the back stretch, you can just see with a couple of car lengths advantage, Brian Dees able to keep in front of James Watson, but a lock-up of the left front going through into turn 9. Could this be the opportunity? Watson senses, has that sense of urgency, not that sense of desperation. He does not want to be desperate in making a robust move that could be dramatic and decisive for the pair of them, but wants to make that move done nice and cleanly. They've got Nitti, who is effectively a lap down on the leaders. They are coming up to pretty much get their way past the 151, but they run out of time going through into turn 1 here. Now Brian Dees last time around on the previous lap when he locked up going into turn 1, Sagar, was very, very close to getting a track limit penalty and a slowdown, which would have allowed James Watson to have actually breathed his way past.
very interesting, and I want to point out something important as well. Mr. Christopher Hill is currently running in 4th, but that's only because he has taken a pit stop so far. So Mr. Hill has taken his service of this race. It was a pit lane time of 31.3 seconds and a pit time of 10 seconds overall. Now, does that mean he took tires, or does that mean he did not take tires with 19 minutes left to go? It's up to Christopher Hill to control the field now.
Dees has just pitted, so that's released James Watson. So I think well, normally if you're going to put tyres on the car, if you're going to put all 4 boots on it, you're probably looking at a 30-second pit stop, including maybe some fuel as well to boot. So let's see, Brian Dees, 10.8 seconds. Now I'm sort of thinking that because the predominant corner that is being used is a left-hander, we are seeing, I've got a feeling whether drivers are having to take left side tyres, but I could be completely wrong in my assumption, and you know what they say, assumptions are the mother of all muck-ups. But if that is effectively for fuel, whether we see James Watson, whether we see Damien Daniel, who's now got a 20-second lead over James Watson, if he's going that little bit longer, bearing in mind he started 5th in the Daytona Prototype grid when we had the full reverse grid for this 40-minute feature, and he just seems to be cruising rather nicely. He's actually being quite consistent on his lap times. Right, Corey Rutherford, it looks like they are having to take some fuel on board, so whether the Daytona prototypes are not suffering with their tyres, because we've just dipped underneath 40 degrees centigrade, so we're probably just over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 40 degrees, yeah, so 40 degrees centigrade is the track temperature. It has dropped 4 degrees since we started the race 22.5 minutes ago. So 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's see, what does Damien Daniel do? No, he's going to stay out for another lap and complete lap 21. So maybe the track is not being as abrasive or degrading on the tyres as we were inherently talking about during the warm-up saga. So I think it might be the case that some drivers will be taking fuel. Nitekume, however, we did see that pit stop a little bit earlier on because the right front of that car was an absolute mess. Looked like it needed more surgery than Kim Kardashian, to be honest with you. But I think the thing is that we are seeing that they are small amounts of fuel. Corey Rutherford came in and took 12 seconds of fuel, which equates to around about a 33 to 35 second total transfer time from pit lane entry to pit lane exit. So I think it is more the case of, okay, right, Keon Maduro has just been in for nearly 20 seconds, so Victor Aldridge in the number 88 Acura is now the GT3 race leader. He is the last one that is scheduled to pit, so to speak, so there may be a fuel limitation that we might not be aware of. Obviously, Sagar joined this series last week, I joined this week just to step in for Brian, but I think now that whether Keon might have taken, I think maybe if those tyres on that Mustang, I would probably say more than likely, if it's a left side, if it's more lefts than rights, you would probably err on the side of caution of maybe going, well, I'll put 2 left tyres on it just to be on the safe side, because those are the tyres that are taking the battering.
100%. If you were to take tires, you take one side only and try to run with it as much as possible. Especially with only 15 minutes left to go, we're still seeing lap times down into the 105s and 106 from Brian Dees. That last time around, 107 for Joshua Rutherford on that previous lap. So not too much is lost here for the drivers as far as pace is concerned. But I guess the real question is, and only the drivers can answer this, we'll hopefully get an answer from them with our drivers' interviews post-race, so don't go anywhere after the race is concluded. I want to know if they're getting any loss of control of the vehicle. We're not seeing a lot of slipping and sliding around. These cars don't have any electronic aids to them, so the drivers are modulating everything with their right and their left foots.
Yeah, and that's going to be the key point, as we now see that Brian Dees is being closed in on by Joshua Rutherford. Now, Joshua's lap times haven't been the best. I mean, his best lap time is 1:06.3, but he is keeping with Brian Dees. So I want to see what the difference on Delta is going to be between these two drivers as they will cross the line. The gap between them is about 1.1 seconds. So Brian Dees crosses the stripe, 1:05.7, and Joshua Rutherford 1:06.37. So not that far behind. I think that's good for somebody like Joshua, who probably is finding the number 64 work in progress Corvette C7 Daytona Prototype. We saw it was a bit of a handful for him in race 1, but he seems to have gotten a bit more around it. Damien Danya's now in the pits, and as Victor Aldrich has come into pit road, well, that means that Keon Majuro and James Watson is now in the pits. Damien Dania 10.67, so that is going to equate to about a 30-second pit stop time. Here comes Christopher Hill at full speed across the line, and he is going to be 3.7 seconds behind Damien Dania. So at this moment, Damien has got, with about 13 minutes to go, the same gap between himself and Christopher that when it was reversed for race number 1. Damien's got a bit more real estate to play with, so if there is a little bit of a moment, he can sort of do damage limitation on that. The gap's now stretched out to 4.3 seconds. So yeah, I think Damien's very, very much in control as we see him going through out of the left-hander here at turn number 9 and underneath the Penrite signboard, going through into 10. So yeah, I think it was a case of, you know, Damien just deciding to stay out for that little bit longer. And when you think about it, he stayed out for an additional 7 laps. So he didn't pit until lap 24, same as James Watson. Christopher Hill pitted on lap 17. Brian Dees has pitted on lap 19. Joshua Rutherford, I have to say, though, Sagar, has not pitted at all. He's not pitted yet.
Joshua Rutherford might stay out, and very interesting strategy for him to stay out for as long as he did. And there's a huge lockup for him coming into the final corner, and there he finally decides, oh yeah, I do need to pit for fuel possibly, and he'll come down and get his service here on lap number 25 of completion. Brian Dees up ahead in 4th place, already taking his service. Now down 1 from where he started this event. James Watson up 1 in the good for the evening. And I just keep on thinking about Dania and what advantage he was getting by staying out a little bit longer. And I guess it was just a case of, if I'm still running good laps and staying in the 104s, why would I break up my rhythm and flow to come down pit lane and get a cold set of tires, have to reheat them all over again, yada yada. I think he just wanted to stay out because he was in a group. We've seen him on camera, and the amount of focus that he has, it looks like he just was comfortable with the way his race was going, and it worked out well. He pulled out a 4-second gap on the rest of the field.
It's what I said earlier on. It's all about, you know, in these longer races, you've got to have that air of consistency about you. And Damien Dania reminds me of a driver from Maniti Racing, Ryan van der Rijp, who competes in the Sim Racing Republic Sportscar Championship and GT Open, as it gets very, very close there between Damien and Corey Rutherford. As, oh, there's a spinning car. Well, no, there was a car that locked up. That's Joshua Rutherford. So Damien Dania goes, thank you very much. The both barn doors are open, and he goes through, and Joshua Rutherford ends up being a lap down. So that's everyone in the GT3 field, plus our last runner in the Daytona Prototype class, Joshua Rutherford, that has been lapped by our race leader. But yeah, I think Damien Daniel was in that, he was in that zone of flow where it was just like, okay, this feels pretty comfy. Yeah, I can maybe stretch this a little bit longer. And then he's probably waited until the fuel lights come on and then gone, right, okay, how much, you know, so if it's like got fuel lights come on with like 5 litres left and he's, let's say he's averaging 2.7 litres a lap, he knows that, okay, I can do another lap, I can bring it in, and I've got plenty to spare, and then I just need to fuel up to the bare minimum to make it over to the end of the race, plus maybe an additional couple of laps. So, yeah, he felt really, really comfy. I mean, at the meantime, however, Christopher Hill, whose fuel has been burning down since lap 17, we're now completing lap 28. He is closing that gap. The last time, it was 105.6 for Damien Daniel, 104.8 for Christopher Hill. Now, while the pendulum has swung the other way, Christopher Hill slightly slower by nearly a tenth in comparison with Damien Daniel, who's probably more than likely got those tyres that are still used up to temp. And that gap is now, Nitakume is off again, I'm afraid, in the 151 Ferrari, and has already hit the fence once tonight. And that was coming out of turn 7. We did see that moment. Here's the replay. Oh dear, don't tell me, same place. Here we go, now this is going to be coming, straight on into the kitty litter. Well, at least he outbraked himself rather than the car going the left, the rear axle going to me, to you, to me, to you. A bit like the comedic duo, the Chuckle Brothers, back in the day in the United Kingdom when they were both together. Unfortunately, one of the brothers has passed away in recent times, but there's always that meme of to me, to you, to me, to you, and that was what his back axle on that Ferrari was doing. But on that time, I think he just carried too much speed through into turn 6, and that really does not set you up well for, you know, the slight descent and the curbing through turns 7 and 8. But with just under 8 minutes to go, we're now on to lap 30 of this race, and Christopher Hill this time did take time out of Damien Daniel, and it was just over 0.3 of a second, so the gap is coming down to around about the 3-second mark. There you see Christopher Hill can see Damien Daniel right in front as Joshua Rutherford puts on a bit too much steering angle through turn 4, and that brings his car to nigh on a slow halt as he's meant to accelerate out of that corner. And there is Keon Majuro, who is a lap down already on Damien Daniel, but he's going to see the number 98 Team Fastish car go through, and that's 2 laps down goes Keon Majuro, but he's fine at the moment. He is 15.6 seconds ahead of Corey Rutherford in the number 5 Ferrari, who's in second position. And Victor Aldrich in the 88 Acura is rounding out your top 3, with just Nitakume rounding out the field. Daniel Miglin, unfortunately, retiring after 7 laps, and spent 7.5 seconds in the pit lane, and I think maybe just decided, well, this has been a bit of a bogey track for me. I don't want anything more to do with Sandown Park. That's it, I've had enough.
Like I said at the beginning of the show, it is a unique track that maybe a lot of drivers didn't either have or have never driven in the series before, so it is very tricky, and when you throw in a multi-class event, it may not be everybody's flavor, that's for sure. One thing I did want to highlight is Corey Rutherford's attacking move on Victor Aldrich early on in this race. We saw them battle during heat number 1, but he had to do it again for this heat, and it worked out well for him. He was able to pull out a nearly 20-second gap back to Victor Aldrich now during this heat, showing us that he really did have the pace during heat number 1. He was just kind of being held up by Victor Aldrich out in front potentially, who was making mistakes kind of lap after lap. So Corey Rutherford finally getting his just desserts gains, 1 on the good for the evening, up into 7th place overall, but 2nd place in the category and 1st place in our hearts.
Indeed, just over 5.5 minutes to go. We're currently on lap number 32 of this race, with Damien Daniel in the number 98 car striding away, but the lead is being whittled down. 0.7 of a second was taken out of his advantage by Christopher Hill. The gap is now 2.3 seconds as they make their way through the turn 6 to turn 9 complex. Looking at the sector times, the last sectors, well, looking at it this way, Christopher Hill slightly slower in the first sector. Sector 2, about 6/100ths of a second quicker. That gap is starting to shrink. It's coming down to 2.2 seconds. Damien Daniel 1 minute 4.8. Christopher Hill 1 minute 4.722. So just shy of 8/100ths taken out of the lead at that point. But with the amount of laps that we have left and also the time on the ticker, we're probably talking about another, I would say, 4 to 5 laps of racing left to go. So including this one. And Johan Roger on YouTube chat saying go Damien. So cheering on the number 98 who continues to lead the way, but Christopher Hill has been eking into that gap quite considerably over the last 3 to 4 tours. As you can just see, they're making their way through the top left-hand part of the circuit once again, and then it's going to be down underneath the Penrite advertising bridge. We're riding on board with the Team Watson Racing number 101. So it's going to be through into turn 12, into turn 13. Lovely onboard shot here as we see Christopher Hill accelerate up through the gearbox. Now we'll go into 6th as they go past pit lane exits, and then it's going to be onto the brakes ever so slightly down to 4th, 3rd gear, make that 2nd even. That gap is for the first time for a long time under 2 seconds. You can just see how hard Chris Hill is hustling the number 101 Team Watson Daytona Prototype through turns 2 to 4. That gap is still coming down. It's just a shade under 2 seconds. Folks, if you want to put it in the chat, do you think that Christopher Hill is going to be able to mount an offensive against Damien Daniel in the next 3 minutes? I'm probably going to say it's going to be close, but I think Damien might take the win on this particular occasion, but Chris will give him a good run for his money.
This is going to be down to the wickets, as you would say in your end of the world, because the pace is there from Christopher Hill. He is definitely catching up. I was doing math in my head. 3/10 a lap, okay. He needs 9 laps to get it done. There's only 7 minutes left, but he's chipping away a little bit more than that. We see 6/10 on lap 31. We see 4/10 on lap 30, but we're back down to that average around 3/10 on lap 34. So just doing some quick commentary math on a napkin, I don't think he will be able to get this overtake done. He will be within striking distance of Dania up ahead, but will it be enough to force a mistake out of Dania and get the lead of this race and get the back-to-back wins? It'll be a long stretch for it to happen, but anything can and will happen in motorsports.
Which brings up my favourite word of motorsports, unpredictability, because you never know what's going to happen. But last lap around, Christopher Hill did a 1 minute 4.399, 2 more laps remaining. So that is going to be just a shade under 3.9 miles of racing. Gap is now down to 1.25 seconds. As we come across the line, another new fastest lap on the 101. And he goes in with a 104.323. Gap now is 1 second and closing. They come out of turn number 1. Now up into the turn 2 to 4 complex. And yeah, a 1/10.5 quicker in the first sector is Christopher Hill. It was a 20.279 for Damien Dania, 20.124 in the first sector by the 101 of Hill. Now there's this long straightaway at the back part of the circuit where they can really stretch the legs. And that gap is now less than 9/10 of a second through into turns 6 to 9. They go for the penultimate time. Someone has kicked up the kitty litter, and that is Victor Aldrich, who's gone off the circuit. We ride on board with our race leader, who came out in front of Christopher Hill by the best part of 4.3 seconds. The gap is closing 0.8 of a second. White flag in the air for what is now going to be lap 37 to conclude the racing evening here on Racer Nexus for the American Sim Racing League Sportscar Championship, presented by Purple Haze Motorsport. Into turn 1 for the final time. The gap is now 0.4. And Christopher Hill, he is really charging. He did a 1 minute 4.274, diving to the inside of this contact.
Oh no, that is not the way you want to see a race end, but holy smokes, the patience being exercised from Christopher Hill. He slams on the brakes, waits for Dania to get it spun around in the right direction. We even had the 88 of Victor Aldrich just sitting there waiting, going, what are we doing here, boys?
Please do not go around the outside at turn 6. Here we go, last lap. Hill to the outside. Damien, oh no, and it's happened again! Oh, they're both around! I cannot believe it! Oh! I think in the words of Murray Walker, and it's happened immediately.
Oh!
And Damien Dania, insult to injury, has just, look at the front end of his car, he hit the barriers. And that is going to be 2 for 2 for Christopher Hill on the road. Whether there might be a post-race investigation, that is down to the organisers. Christopher Hill comes across the line, will take the win. But he was so close. The thing was, and I think what we need to do, we'll wait for all our drivers to come around, but it's Keon Majuro that has an undisturbed double victory here in the GT3 class. The 188 Mustang takes double bubble here at Sandown Park. James Watson comes across the line in 3rd position. Then we got Brian Dees and Joshua Rutherford. They all make it to the checkered. We've got a little bit of a wait. Corey Rutherford takes P2 for work in progress. Itekumi will take 4th, and we just got one more driver left to go. It is going to be Victor Aldridge, who is going to make his way through into turn 9 for the final time. But what we really need to do is, before we start our post-race interview show here, Sagar, we need to take a look at both incidents.
Okay.
Because I think in some respects, I did not expect it to be 2 successive incidents. It's kind of like, if anyone might remember, in Spa-Francorchamps between, I think it was Lewis Hamilton and Kimi Raikkonen, and they came, and then we had a redress, and to be honest with you, I know we got Damien watching, but we're going to have a look through first of all. Now, this is the first incident, so Christopher Hill is 4/10 behind Damien Dania. Now, here they go through into turn 2. Now, this is the tightest complex on the circuit, where you've really got to be on your A game. So, onto the curbing, through out of turn 3. Now, you're going to see from this perspective, Christopher's going to angle his car. He sees the door open. He goes for it. Damien comes to cover him off. Chris slides, and then bang, there's the contact, which turns Damien around. So in some respects, you would have to say that Christopher lost control of the vehicle going into that. And I have to say, kudos to Chris for that particular incident where he waited and let Damien go through. But then let's fast forward to what happened in the second incident. Well, I think this is the first incident again, isn't it? Or
Here we go.
One.
Now,
there we go.
Oh,
there's
Victor Aldrich.
There's Victor.
Let's see if we can find it. I apologize. Let's go back to the live and go back to Damien's point of view. This is turn 1 again. Let's play it through at full speed and see if we can get the full lap
this is
now.
The first, yeah. So you can see that when Christopher went into there, the back end stepped out to the right, so he was not in control of the vehicle. The car started losing control. So what he's done is he's let Damien go. And he's let Damien go into the lead of the race. And then we go into turn 6. Now here comes Christopher to the outside. And I mentioned the words, please don't go outside at turn 6. He goes to the outside. And now this is where we pick apart the second incident. So Damien takes the curbing on the inside of 6, lines himself up nicely, gives Christopher enough room, who takes the curbing through 7. Then you can see through into 8, there's the contact. It's 2 cars converging onto the other, and Damien hits the wall. That's a 50-50. I can't make out who was at fault for that one, because they were both, it was like unstoppable force versus immovable object on that one.
100%. And You can dissect that a million different ways and put the blame on a million different drivers. Say that so-and-so never left the racing space. It was so-and-so's racing line. But at the end of the day, an incident happened. And I think it's important to try to grow from these types of incidents that we see. And I believe that's one of the prime objectives that we're going for here with ASRL is how do we improve our racing to an elevated level? And we're seeing that by the drivers pushing each other beyond what they're capable of doing and just making genuine mistakes, let's say, or pushing as hard as they possibly can. Last lap, last couple of corners overtake that went wrong. Exciting racing in my eyes, and a lesson for all of the drivers to maybe go back and review with the stewards and have a nice conversation about it.
Exactly. Well, with that in mind, let's jump over to the post-race interview show, and we're going to have our first guest joining us in the Race to Nexus broadcast booth. It is one of the people that we've just been talking about, Damien Dania. Good evening. Firstly, not the way you would have expected race 2 to have ended. What's your take on it? Because we've just been dissecting it before we brought you in.
Oh, I honestly don't know what to say. Like, I'm not really angry at Chris Hill. Like, I understand the first thing he just made a mistake, but the second one just I felt that was a little bit unnecessary. But we got net coded really bad, so unfortunately I just couldn't do anything about it. So yeah, I'm very unhappy, and I'll definitely protest it. I don't have anything against him, but yeah, it just sucks.
Yeah, but aside from that, the pace that you showed in the first half, I mean, you went 7 laps longer in the 40 minute feature race tonight. What was your plan of attack? Because you seemed like you really had hit a really good flow around the circuit here at Sandown Raceway.
A little hard to say. I was just I saw him pitting and I thought he's gonna try to undercut me. I knew it wasn't really gonna work, but so I kind of just kept driving. At the end, I was just really tired and I couldn't really drive fast laps anymore. So I knew I had to build as big a gap as possible, and then I just have to survive for the rest of the race. But yeah, it wouldn't have mattered. It didn't matter. I would have ended up with a 0x, which would have been 3 extra points, and of course the win. But yeah, that would have been at least 4 extra points on me, and I would have been able to close up a little bit. Sorry, I'm going on a little bit of a tangent. I've had a very bad day, and this only made it much worse. So. Yeah.
No, Damien, you don't need to apologise to us. We completely understand and appreciate the situation that you're currently in, having a bad day, and then having this on top of it. These kind of things never sit well. But still, next week we go to Barber Motorsports Park. How are you feeling about that?
Not next week.
No, there's a week break, isn't there? There's
yes.
two. Yeah. There's a week break, so you've got a week break, and then you're back, so you have a bit of time to just sort of get yourself ready and into the zone in a fortnight's time when ASRL come back. Are you looking forward to the challenge at Barber?
I don't know Barber. I've never seen a lap of it, so I look forward to learning another track. But I got a lot of catching up to do in the points now. So yeah.
Well, all I can say is keep that throttle pinned and go for it. We could see by the consistency before you pitted for your pit stop here in race 2 that you're a very, very, patient driver. You've got very, very good consistent speed when it comes to race pace. So keep pushing away and just keep your head held high, because you did a great job tonight, nevertheless.
Yep. Thank you very much for the nice words.
No problem, Damien, and good luck in a couple of weeks when the series returns at Barber Motorsport Park. We'll see you then.
Yep. Thank you very much.
So a big thank you to Damien Dania there, who at this moment has said that he's going to make some calls. But let's bring it. We've just brought in Team Watson Racing's Christopher Hill, who on the road won the race. Chris, very difficult set of circumstances on that final lap. I mean, you closed that gap, which was 4.3 seconds when you came out of your. You saw Damien come out of the pit lane. Can you give us your take on it? Because we did notice on the first one, it was a slight. We noticed that you went for the move at turn 4, and then the car sort of went a little bit sideways on the back end. We noticed that the back end was stepping out, and then of course the incident a little bit further along after the back stretch.
Yeah, that was a little unfortunate. I thought I'd take a peek, and then I got a little sideways there, and unfortunately spun him. And that's why once he spun, I just sat there and waited for him to get back ahead, because I'm like, got to do the right thing. You know what I mean? Like, that was definitely not, I want to win the race, is spinning him out. And then unfortunately we went a couple corners later, and we kind of did it to each other again. But I ended up looking like it was net code that time. So yeah, wasn't the cleanest finish to the race. I definitely fine with whatever anybody's view of that was. It was not exactly how I like to to get to the lead. You know what I mean? But um, otherwise, a pretty fun race. So yeah, a little bummer to end that way.
Yeah, between myself and Saga, we kind of were a bit sitting on the fence because it was difficult to read it. I mean, the first one we could clearly see that, yeah, and what you did there was the greatest sporting gesture. I mean, a lot of other drivers would have just gone off into the distance, but you decided, no, I've accidentally spun him. It's my fault. I will let him go through and stay in the race lead. And it kind of reminded me of the redress between Kimi Raikkonen and Lewis Hamilton a few years ago when Hamilton was in his early days in Formula One at Spa. But nevertheless, race 1, you both had a very, very close fight, but you used back marker traffic to absolute precision and got the win in race 1. How are you feeling after the first race? But obviously we've got Barber Motorsports Park in a couple of weeks' time because the series takes a break for a week. So at least everyone's got a bit of an opportunity to calm down, chill out, and then come back racing in a fortnight's time.
Yeah, pretty happy with the first race. That was, a lot of times Damien's able to find the speed because he tends to put a lot more time in on practice. I mean, if you put in 5 minutes, you put in more time on practice than I usually do for a race. So it tended to, I think said he had a little less practice this week, and so probably gave me the chance to kind of have a leg up on pace this week. And um, yeah, I mean, that first race just ended up going kind of to plan, so that was great. And then yeah, I mean, like I said, we already talked about the second one. That was an adventurous one. And I mean, when I started hunting him down, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to leave any opportunity on the last lap available. And it just, as you can see, it just didn't quite work out. But in a clean manner on at least that first one. But Barber has not always been the strongest track for me. I'm glad we're taking a week off, because I was thinking I was going to have to use a drop race next week. So it looks like I don't have to use my drop race for that, which is nice to be able to save it for something more disastrous, penalty wise or something, or whatever the case may be, or a bad race. So that'll be good from there. And yeah, hopefully we can figure out how to find some pace there. For some reason, it's not always been my strongest track, but we'll see how that goes and keep fighting for the championship.
All right. Well, Christopher, thanks very much for joining us in the post-race interview show, and we'll see you when the series resumes in 2 weeks' time at Barber Motorsports Park.
Thanks so much, guys.
Big thank you there from Christopher. Now let's bring in our double GT3 race winner, I think. Keon Majuro joins us. Keon, well, firstly, I have to credit you on the absolutely brilliant job you did, because I was on the Apex this broadcast for GT4 at Laguna Seca, and you made up 14 places. So first of all, well done there, and now you've done the double here at Sandown Park. How was it for you in the Mustang here tonight?
The GT3 Mustang is like one of my favorite cars. It's to drive because it's so heavy and easy to drive. So it was easy for me here. I know I can take it on curves and it wouldn't be upset because of the weight, and it got me to win tonight. Last night with the GT4s? I did that one whenever that race was. I did that to get a feel of how snappy, because Laguna Seca is not one of my favorite tracks, and I went to run one of the hardest cars in GT4s to run on one of the most difficult tracks with all the elevations, just to kind of help me prepare for this race as well.
Well, it was a good bit of training ahead of time. So, but a double here at Sandown puts you in a very good stand heading into the 1 week break before we come back at Barber Motorsports Park in 2 weeks' time. How are you feeling ahead of that?
I'm feeling pretty confident. I'm gonna run some more races and some of the other leagues. I'm not gonna take any time off. I'm gonna keep preparing and
Well done on the double victory here at Sandown Park, Keown, and enjoy whatever break you decide to take between now and Barber Motorsports Park when we come back for week 6 in 2 weeks' time.
all right, thank you guys. I feel like I'll be well prepared for Barber because I've run that track so many times. I have a set time that I always run consistent, and we'll see how that goes.
Brilliant. Well done tonight on the double victory, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time at Barber.
All right, guys, and thank you guys for hosting, and have a good night.
Okay, thank you very much to Keon Najira. I think we've got time for one more interview before we wrap things up. Let's have a chat with Corey Rutherford in the number 5 work in progress car. Corey, good evening.
Hello.
Well, second place in GT3 in race 2. You made some nice moves there, especially around the outside of Victor Aldridge in the 88 car. The first race, was a bit hit or miss, but race 2, it seemed to bring you to your strengths and you got a P2 out of it.
Yeah, I actually found out I like Sandown. It's actually a pretty fun track to drive. So, I was finally figuring it out. The first race, I was just kind of taking it easy. I realized I probably wasn't gonna catch Victor there toward the end, so I was just taking it easy, trying to maintain my 0x as much as best I could, and ended up finishing with the 0x. So I'm happy with that. And then the second race was just cruising along, took the opportunities when they presented themselves and tried to stay clean. But yeah, overall it was a good night, fun track. I had fun.
That's the main thing. It's all about fun when it comes to sim racing. At least if you do go off track, it means that you don't have any IOUs or any invoice to pay if you go hard into the fence. But nevertheless, we've got a week's break here on ASRL Sports Car Championship. It's going to be nice to sort of like go, well, I've got a week's break. I don't have to worry about a drop score. We've got Barber Motorsports Park in 2 weeks' time. How do you think the Ferrari's going to handle around there?
So far, the Ferrari seems to be liking a lot of the technical tracks. I've been finding so far this season that a lot of the technical tracks, with tighter corners, a lot of medium speed corners. So I think it'll actually be pretty solid around Barber. I probably will take the next week and try to get some practice in. But honestly, I like Barber. It's another one of those just fun tracks to just turn laps at. So hopefully we can continue the streak and have another good run there.
Corey, well done tonight on the P2 finish and the feature. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time at Barber Motorsport Park when the series returns.
Yep. Thank you, fellas.
Well, that really does wrap up our post-race interview show here on Racer Nexus and there are your feature results. Obviously, there may be a little bit of discussion post the events that have just transpired amidst drama in race 2 between Christopher Hill and Damien Dania. Obviously, we heard from Damien, we heard from Christopher, we got both their sides of the story. And sometimes in a broadcast, that's what you need to do, just so at least that they have the opportunity to air their side of the story. I'd rather hear both sides than one person storming off and deciding not to say anything. But at least we got that information for you live here. So there are your provisional results that we had 12 cars due to start. Ken Estep actually did admit in the Discord that he said, well, I might use this as a drop, so a bit of a bummer, but I'll be back next time. Travis Fleming was the first of the retirees on lap 2. Daniel Miglin on lap 7 in the Acura. So 2 big incidents for the team. Watson Racing number 4 has really put him on the back foot. This might be a drop round for him this week, but there are all the results you need to know here at Sandown International Motor Raceway. Nearly 72 miles completed. Christopher Hill taking the win on the road. Whether that might be the same thing when we come back in 2 weeks' time, well, you'll have to tune in at that point. And more to the point there, Sagar Bakshi, what a dramatic end to 2 races here at Sandown in Australia.
Really was a dramatic finish. You couldn't have written a script any better than that. As you mentioned during the interview, it was a dramatic finish and a gentlemanlike move from Christopher Hill to wait up for Dania, as you could have just driven off during that first incident. An unfortunate netcode resulted in the contact for that second one, but great to be able to review it, great to be able to talk about it as well. Like you said, to get it off your chest, especially before the end of the night. Obviously, it's up to the stewards to review that incident, and we're going to go ahead and give them the time and the space to do so. But we'll have those results for you when we catch back up with you in 2 weeks' time at Barber Motorsports Park.
Yep. So up here in the Racer Nexus broadcast booth, you've been in the company for week 5 of the American Sim Racing League Sports Car Championship from Sandown International Raceway in Victoria, Australia, just 35 minutes southeast of Albert Park, that will host the opening round of the 2026 Formula One World Championship in just a couple of weeks' time. First weekend of March. I can't believe we're going to see these new cars go into aggressive tactical battling over 24 rounds this season. But here on Race to Nexus, the ASRL Sports Car Championship presented by Purple Haze Motorsport will be back in 2 weeks. Yes, these guys have got a week off just to calm down, chill out, and get themselves ready for the second half of the Winter Series. Plenty of racing action still to come over the coming days here on the Racer Nexus Network. So don't forget to give us a like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. So thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, race hard, race fair. And if in doubt, like here at Sandown, well, you better go flat out. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Good night.